Welcome to the Bowl30 podcast. This is episode 2. I don't really remember exactly what was in this one, but here we go.
The pharmaceutical companies converted it into the thing that is today, which is it is much more profitable to sell a palliative or to overdose the population.
Well, they've cut back big time. You know, do you go to Kaiser?
I do.
I mean, the last time I was sick, and I knew it was like a bacterial thing, they wouldn't give me antibiotics. Like, I was begging for them, basically, and they wouldn't give them to me.
Well, yeah.
And I wound up having to, go to a little clinic at King Supers to get them to give me antibiotics.
Well, I mean, that's the thing.
It's crazy.
Is they overprescribe them for things that don't need them, and then they underprescribe them for the things that do need them. And it's a...
You know what I heard they do in China? Like, if you're sick with anything, they don't just give you antibiotics. They give you, a freaking IV of antibiotics.
Why?
For, anything. I've been watching this YouTube channel called, it's ADV China, I think is what it's called. And these guys, mostly, it's two guys, they ride around on motorcycles, and they talk back and forth while they're riding, but they were talking about that. And one of the guys is married to a Chinese woman who's a doctor. And he's even told her, this is insane that you guys are, just giving an IV of antibiotics for anything. Viral, if they're not feeling, basically, if you go into a hospital they're going to plug you up with an IV of antibiotics.
Maybe they're trying to breed the perfect virus in form of, breed the perfect human. If the human can cultivate the perfect virus, they can use it.
That'll do it. Well, it's just, there's from watching this channel and hearing them talk about China and kind of learning how China does their things, it's just, they're just at a different stage with medicine and safety, a very immature stage, I would say.
Well, different. I mean, there's a different value placed upon life when you live in such a huge mass of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a more pragmatic approach, I think, to human beings. I mean, it completely takes emotion out of the equation. Oh, we've got 50,000 people.
They're starting to change, though. But
well, I mean, everybody affects everybody else. I mean, Western medicine is not the be-all, end-all of everything, even though we say that it is. I mean, there's so much more to be said for the cancer patient who goes cancer-free after a year and a half of not homeopathic medicine, but holistic medicine? Is that what I'm trying to think of? Someone who not only goes and they eat well, they try and improve their life.
Yeah.
They do their medication and things, but it's not, I'm doing this just so I can survive. This is just a part of the process. I mean, it's curing the whole being. It's not something that the West says. The West wants to cut it up and dissect it and classify it and have a chemical that will affect each and everything.
Yeah, approach it scientifically. Science and medicine are just one and the same.
Well, profitability has become medicine's hallmark. It is no longer. Well, pharmaceutically, and unfortunately that bleeds over into the health profession, where the doctors, general practitioners are not something that you find, everything nowadays. Everybody wants to be a specialist. I'm going to specialize in this one thing. I'm going to specialize in that thing, and that's great. But you still need those general practitioner people. It's my argument between surgeons and internists. Okay, an internist actually has to think for a living. A surgeon just has to play video games. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that surgeons are not skilled people, but let's think about this from just an objective point of view. An internist has to take what the person is telling them, plus all the physical signs, and work up what's actually wrong with them. A surgeon is told, "Go remove this bit."
We already know what the problem is.
Or
go in and slice it out.
Fix this bit here.
Stitch it up real good on the way out.
And I'm not like I'm saying, I'm not discounting that, but it is a difference in the way that we treat medicine, and I'm hoping that eventually we will get to the point where people realize that complementary medicine actually works.
Yeah.
As massages, a massage, for the love of God, relaxing the body can get rid of so many of the aches and pains and ailments that exist. Why do we do half the crap that we do? Let's just give them a muscle relaxant.
Well, like most headaches can be cured with a 1 or 2 glasses of water. Water can cure a lot of things.
Weird. I think we had some fun last night.
And we got to get your recording started. We're gonna see if it works this time. We got the backup already started. We're 6 minutes into the back.
6 minutes into the backup.
Of us talking about medicine, which we could probably talk about that for probably a solid 24 hours. I'd imagine.
I would think so. I mean, see, little things moving. See, much better now with the little things moving.
Working, so
now that we know that it's actually working, I think I'm going to crank that down a little bit because it's better to turn it up than to turn it down. All right, there we go. So now, no matter how loud we get,
hopefully
it should be all right. But that
won't
should
blast
pick up
anybody's ears too bad. So we got that set about halfway up in the in that program.
Yeah, and
running.
probably what I'll do is with the microphone it'll be even lower because the microphone is much more sensitive.
What happens if you switch it to a female basic?
Oh, it's just track names.
Oh, okay.
They're just.
It records just raw audio. It doesn't compress it differently or something.
I could have named it, Jack Off 1, and it would have been. I mean, it's just those are just the basic tracks that it puts up there, so that you have. This is just a general project.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like seeing how the information gets recorded.
I'm also sampling it at a much higher bit rate than we will be compressing it to. So I think I got us at 48K.
That's up there.
No, not really. It's a little more than what your CDs are, your radio.
Well, it's rolling on through. Welcome to Lucas stepped out of the room, but it won't stop me. Welcome to the Bowl30 podcast. Enjoy listening. We're going to dive into some topic. I'm not sure what we're going to do today. We kind of stopped abruptly recording yesterday because it was late. It was like 2 in the morning. And so here we are. We're back at it again.
Don't mind me. I'm just making some coffee.
Brewing up some coffee. I'm always down for that. Well, yesterday's topic was Bigfoot, and I've been thinking about maybe just doing a daily podcast. We'll see how that pans out into the future, but that would be a really cool thing if people like listening. I think there's a lot of people out there that like listening every day. Yeah, the Bigfoot topic. My goodness, I mean, the amount of stories that have been bouncing around in my head.
Okay, warning.
You can barely hear it. It's coffee grinder. No biggie. But yes, back to the Bigfoot topic. So we kind of left off around the point of diving into the conspiracy theory side of it, that the conspiracy theory being that the government knows about Bigfoot. And and hides it from us. That they have a bunch of people that are working under top secret clearances and working on classified projects to keep the general public from knowing about Bigfoot. And as you can imagine, there'd be a lot of motivations for that. The park services collect billions of dollars every year. So that's people visiting Yellowstone or visiting Mount Hood or any of the national parks. They collect billions of dollars. And you could imagine that if the existence of Bigfoot was allowed to get out, that people would probably be really afraid. They would go to, has the government been hiding this from us? Oh, yeah, we've been hiding it from you. Well, why? Well, they've killed some people. There's been people that have been killed by them, and for your own good, we decided not to tell you about it. And that would be, I think, if I was in a government that was hiding something from the public that turned out to be a big threat to the public, I think that creates an environment where you really don't want that information to get out, because then the trust that people have in the government, part of that would evaporate, I think.
Well, I don't know if anybody trusts the government anyway, because the bureaucracy is actually a decent thing when it comes to government. Bureaucracy, they're just people doing their jobs as they've been told to do by the higher ups.
And that's what you say when if you're working in bureaucracy and something bad happens. Oh, I was just doing my job.
And let's face it, there are so many layers of insulation between the people who make the policy and the people who affect the policy that everybody is basically blameless,
and faceless. You don't put a face to it. If you're going to blame, I think there was a big mining spill in Colorado earlier last year. A bunch of mine water got washed into a river. And, I'm sure that there are the names of the people that are responsible, but everyone that talks about it, you just blame the EPA. The EPA did it,
Yeah.
You don't just point to the director or...
That would be the Gold King mine in southwestern Colorado near Durango. It's part of a string of mines that are under reclamation right now by the Bureau of Land Management, and they're trying to stop, essentially poisonous water flow coming from out of these mines, because they've taken all the minerals that they want out, and water seeps in and leaches out those chemicals and puts them into the water supply. And so there's a way to remediate that, so that it basically cuts the mine off from water flow. And that's what they were trying to do. But the person who went in, I actually have intimate knowledge of this.
Oh, do you?
I will say I am related to a civil mining engineer who has done this for years. Worked in mines, and he told them. He said, "Well, okay. Well, here's how we did these other three in the state. So you might want to consider this." And the person who came in said, "Oh no, we're going to do this a completely different way," and ended up loosing all of the water and opening a direct sluice into the Los Animas River.
That's so interesting. Wow. I've heard there's a conspiracy theory floating around about this, which I saw on Alex Jones's website. Then they stated that they did it on purpose, that it was intentionally done, and this accident was no accident, according to this conspiracy theory, and that they had the plans already drawn up. And I don't know if the construction had already begun for a water treatment facility, which then became absolutely necessary after this spill. That there was people that were drinking that river water, and after this happened, and probably the cleanup would need that water treatment facility as well. Yeah. But I think that water treatment facility got built after this project, So there's a theory that the EPA did it on purpose to get this water treatment facility built. I don't know if that theory holds water. I didn't really look into it too much because, honestly, I don't really care. But
well, it was a disaster waiting to happen, and whether or not it was intentional could be a matter of debate for years to come. But it might. I mean, it might have been intentional for other reasons as well, to draw attention. I mean, it might have been somebody not going for the working for the government, but somebody who works for the government, attempting
a contractor or something.
Because one of the big things is when the Superfund sites started being approved in the 70s, 80s, I think.
That sounds right.
They, southwestern Colorado said, no, we don't want anybody knowing that we've got, poison coming through our rivers.
Interesting.
So they turned down a whole bunch of money that would have fixed this problem 30 years ago. So, I mean, it's a, there's no one place you can really point. I mean, it's a really, there's so much conspiracy, and this is why I love conspiracy theory, because a conspiracy theorist will say there's no such thing as a coincidence. And
that's just not true.
As a chaotician, I firmly am of the belief that coincidence happens far more than we would care to admit.
I think we create coincidences. With our minds. I think we somehow pull the strings of the invisible and make things occur.
Well, those people who are happy all the time,
mm-hmm.
I mean, constantly happy all the time, I mean, nothing can get them down. That's because they have that special button that they press that says, the world will be happy today.
Hit it every morning. But yeah, what you think about, you bring about, and it's funny, like you drive around in traffic and you see somebody that's clearly like road raging, right? You saw the guy get cut off in front of you or something, and you pass him because he's, he got cut off and he's backed up or whatever, and you watch him in your rearview mirror and you see him like get cut off like 3 more times in a row. And I can't help but to think, gosh, that's a hell of a coincidence, or this guy is just pissed off and he's creating more things in front of him to continue perpetuating that emotional state that he's in of pissed offness.
Well, and to bring this back to Western versus Eastern philosophy, which I find this humorous. We're all human beings. We should all want and need and do the same things, but for some reason we've regionalized ourselves, and then we've categorized ourselves by color and height and hair, and I mean we like to categorize things. It's a human thing.
It is something that we do. If you've ever been to jail, you may realize how much people are categorized going into jail. It's like the...
Yes, I made the mistake of trying to play chess with everybody.
Yeah.
and then I talked to somebody in different color. What are they called? They're not scrubs. I mean, they're like scrubs, but they're the colors that you wear.
Because
they've got different colors for different levels.
The actual jumpsuits that you wear in jail are color coded.
You've got high crimes. No. What's above felonies? Something above felonies, then felonies, then misdemeanors, then petty crimes. Petty crimes. That's the one.
As I tried not to pay too much attention when I was in the pen the last time, but they had people color coded, like people that were staying there for a long time. If they were there for like 2 years, they were in green.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually went to 2 different jail facilities, and at the other one they had people wearing different colors based on like if you're like you could be a felon and be in the low security area.
Okay.
Yeah, and so some parts of the jail has where you don't even have doors on your cells. So you're in a huge pod with like 200 other people, where there would be a cell door, there's kind of like 4 bunks in little sections. Of course, typically it's the white people are in their own little 4-man sections, and then the black people are in their own separate 4-man sections. It's really weird. They divide people out by race in jails.
Yeah, I noticed that and nobody mixes, and I'm wondering if it's a survival technique, or if it has been impressed into. I mean, if it's easier to control a population if you keep it separate.
I think that's why, because the jail decides where you're staying. It's not, at least where I was in the Denver jail, they tell you which bunk you have.
Oh, yeah.
And you get there, and it just turns out the other 3 people that you're sharing that small space with are of the same color.
But even in the open time, in the yard time, there's not much mingling between the different groups.
Yeah, it's kind of frowned upon, especially by people that have been there for a bit.
Yeah,
and you know,
because it's first
you can have guards tell you, you guys need to separate.
One of the first things I was told by another inmate when I was there was stick to your own kind.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I went to a high school here in Colorado, in Aurora, a really diverse high school, and
really big high school.
And even in my middle school was really diverse as well. And when we were allowed to sit as we wanted, and we got to choose our own seats, the classroom was divided. It was like the whites were on one side of the classroom, and the black kids were on the other side of the classroom.
Huh.
And one time our teacher was like, "What are you guys doing? Like, look at what you've done. What you've decided to do." You know? It's like there is innate. I hate to say it. There's like innate racism in people.
No, it is all learned.
It's all learned.
No, that has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. The only thing that we know innately is that a smile is a good thing, and what pretty things are.
You don't want to smile at a Bigfoot.
Well, you don't want to smile at a gorilla either. I mean,
yeah. That's kind of interesting, isn't it?
I would imagine.
Speaking of true racism between the species.
Well, the fact that they have kept separate, they have made their decision. They obviously don't want to be around us, and I don't blame them, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, steer clear. Yeah, there's a lot of great stories of people going out hunting, and experienced hunters that they'll shoot a deer, and they've done it 40 times before. They shoot a deer and it runs off, and they follow the blood trail, and if you're a good hunter, the deer is usually not going to be going very far. And yeah, there's a number of stories of people that have come to where they, pretty sure the deer should be a couple more steps, looking at the blood flow that they're seeing, and they can almost see, where it fell, and then it's gone.
But something has picked up this 800-pound thing.
Yeah, or even a small deer, even a 200-pound deer, and
well, I mean, yeah, but
waltzed away with it.
They're big. I mean, there's a lot of meat on a deer.
Yeah. There's stories of people gutting deer and having the gut piles stolen.
Huh.
Yeah, like leaving gut piles unattended for not even really long periods of time and having them taken away. And it seems like the Bigfoot are more about the guts. Like especially as Americans, we don't really eat organ meat much, right? Nope. It's not a big thing here. Like liver and onions is kind of something that if you say that to a child, it scares them. Like, I'm not going to eat that. But actually, here's a fun fact that in a wolf pack, the liver is eaten by the alpha. So if wolves kill a deer or something, the alpha always gets the liver. They found that out more recently. And organ meat is way more nutritious for you than like the hindquarters of a deer are inferior nutritiously compared to organ meat. So
I find it interesting that people eat liver at all. Liver is the filter for the endocrine system. Takes all of the carcinogens and nastiness out of your...
Yeah, but it stores it in the fat that's
Yeah.
adjacent to the liver. So the liver actually, although you would think that it would be full of toxins, it's actually, that's not the case.
But it's so high in iron because of the filtration process, since that's where all the blood gets cleaned.
Yeah, you get that deep color of a liver,
And that's
deep
why
red.
you get that thing. The liver is an interesting organ. Well, they're all interesting organs. They all do their own little thing. But what was it I read? That the liver, you can actually transplant a liver twice.
Oh, that's weird.
It'll grow back. You could take almost half of a liver, of a good liver,
Yeah.
and the rest of it will grow back. And then if the person dies, you can take the rest of that liver and give it to someone
Oh, that
else.
is
So
so
you can transplant a liver twice. It's
Do you know what the only organ that can be donated post-mortem? Or post-mortem?
Eyes?
That is correct, Lucas. That is a good... You guessed that?
Yeah.
Wow, phenomenal.
Well, because I'm thinking blood flow, the last part that it dies is the brain, and the brain would try to protect anything that it has. So the eyes would probably last, I don't know, maybe half an hour after death?
Yeah, isn't it? And I'm not sure about the stats of it.
Because, once the heart stops, it's done.
Yeah, everything starts...
Lungs, I think they become useless once the blood flow stops to them too.
See, are you an organ and tissue donor?
I am.
You are?
I am.
I was, and then I got into like my conspiracy stage of my life, and then I took it off of my license. Because there's something about it that, like if you get in a bad accident, like they'll keep you alive to harvest your organs.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that's kind of like if I'm dying, you know, like if I got in a car crash and I'm dying, I would prefer to die, although that'd be an unnatural death or an untimely death. If I'm on my way out, I wouldn't want to be kept alive just so my organs can be harvested.
That's why they have living wills. You can just say to kill me. I would look at it more as the point that, and we're very close to being beyond this now that we can actually grow tissue, and we're figuring out how to make it mimic what it's supposed to do. What
Still
we want
probably
it to
going to
do.
be like 15 years. But
But I think that one of the greatest gifts that you can give is if you're on your way out, there you go, take it, please.
Yeah.
I mean, save someone else's life.
I'm more selfish than that, I guess.
I mean, the human machine
terrible.
is a fascinating thing, and we have swappable parts. Why not use them? I mean,
Something that's so weird about it. I don't know. It's really off-putting to me.
it's because you have a soul.
It's my body. I know. I have a couple of uncles that are married. I have a gay uncle that's married. They work at a college campus, and both of them have told me, "Oh yeah, when we die, we're going to donate our bodies to science and have they do that slicing, where they make the slices out of you." Oh, barf! I can't even think about that stuff. I don't. I'm just like I would never do that. Like,
Well, it's a good way to learn. It's a great way to learn.
yeah. Like, they have quite a few of those bodies already. I almost wonder. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a lot less gruesome than what they used to do, in large theaters and doctor schools in the 19th century, where they would bring in a freshly dead somebody from some disease or off of the street and say, and today's subject that we're going to be taking apart, we're going to look at this, and this. And 8 hours in a not necessarily cool or sterile operating environment, open to all of the, nastiness that would be around. I mean, isn't it so much nicer that now we can just slice somebody up and send them off somewhere in a sterile environment and have it all researched? And
I don't know. I prefer never to see like what we're in my mind. Like we're not even supposed to see the inside of bodies. It's like in our perfect world that we've constructed.
I suppose so. I mean, that's why I like children who, when they want to know about something, they'll pursue it to the end. I mean, children sometimes they seem like they're cruel, but I think the reason that they squish bugs sometimes is to find out what's inside them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've always had trouble with it. Like I remember squishing a fly near my desk when I was in the 4th grade, and I squished it behind a poster. And every once in a while, I would like pull the poster back to see the squish bug, and I would puke in my mouth right away. Like right away, I'd see this like grayish, like green color, and I'd puke in my mouth. I'd be like, oh,
that bug has been haunting you for years.
Well, like I don't know if this sideshow is still going around. I'm sure it is. The bodies display.
Oh yeah, that German fellow.
That is so fucking disgusting.
It was remarkable.
It's that grosses me out so much that I dropped an F-bomb over it.
Really?
That is just so. I mean, look at what do you have there? You have people's corpses that are. Mm-hmm. I mean, this kind of comes back to like the. Silence of the Lambs types, like the Leatherface.
He didn't kill him.
Right, but
I'm going to bring a Klingon view into this, because whether people like it or not, Star Trek really does reflect parts of our culture, and it also has hope for places that we may go. And the Klingons are based on native peoples for the most part. Very ritualistic, very warrior.
Those are the guys with the heavy
ridges
ridges in their face,
on their foreheads. Yeah,
especially. Yeah.
They fly the birds of prey that look really cool, that cloak, and they have clans.
Shit, I haven't even seen those episodes.
Oh, they're wonderful. In one of the Next Generation episodes, Worf, who is the only Klingon in Starfleet, ends up meeting up with some other Klingons who are renegades. They want to go back to their, they hate this politics bullshit. They hate the, we want to run free. We want to be back in our,
They want to go back to being homesteaders.
For the most part, yeah, they liked being, free, essentially. Well, this is the whole thing behind piracy too. Pirate actually is not what they called themselves. Pirate is what they were called by governments. They called themselves privateers because the Dutch East India Company had a stranglehold on not only... I mean, they touch on this in many movies, but the Dutch East India Company owned the British government.
Right.
And they controlled all means of shipping. And remember, the United Kingdom was the power of the seas.
Weren't the Dutch East India Company, isn't that the company that brought the opium into Hong Kong initially and started the Opium Wars?
I think they were a part of it, but that was at the tail end of their reign, because we had hit the 19th century, late 18th, 19th century at that point, and they had lost their powers. A little bit. I mean, they were still a powerhouse.
Yeah.
But yes, they were the ones who were importing all the opium.
That's crazy history. Like, if you haven't researched that personally, it's phenomenal, because I think it pours over into today. Those families that were responsible for bringing the opium into China because there was such a trade deficit. It was like the only product that they could take, and we went to war with them, or not we, but the UK, right? Would it be the United Kingdom?
Well, yeah, the United Kingdom, English. The English controlled the United Kingdom.
Yeah, they brought in their warships, and they basically kind of owned Hong Kong for like 99 years after that,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the treaties and the Second Opium Wars.
Because when was it? 97, I think. 1997 was when the handover went over, and everybody was all frightened. And actually, it kind of, I mean, they both affected each other because China didn't clamp down on Hong Kong. They kind of left it the way that it was, and said, okay, well, we're not gonna. And it honestly created what we kind of see in China now, which is not really communism, but capitalism in its fledgling stages.
Yeah, and Hong Kong still they have their Hong Kong dollar. I think that there's an acronym for what China refers to it as, like a special province area or something like that.
Like a protectorate.
I've been over there. I've been to Hong Kong. I went a couple years ago. And, actually to Macau. It's like a gambling. It's like Vegas over there, but it's bigger. Like there's a Venetian hotel in Macau.
Okay.
I think it's in Macau. It might be Hong Kong. But that hotel is, I think it's 3 times bigger than the Venetian in Vegas, and it only has suites. There are no regular rooms in the whole hotel. There's like I think there's 4,000 suites or something. It's just amazing. And the last I heard checked, or at that time, that Macau's gambling scene did Vegas's revenue in 3 months.
Holy mackerel!
Yeah.
I'm looking at pictures right now online. I've looked up Macau. It's wow, that's an impressive little spit of land right there. I mean, you should. I'm going to say what I'm describing here is just huge buildings covered from top to bottom with lights, spires climbing up above what looks almost like castles. I mean, this is a phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's all casinos, as far as I know. There might be some business buildings there, but as far as I know, they're all casinos. And if you live in China, you have to basically get like a visa to go to Hong Kong, and that's for Hong Kong and Macau. You get to visit both of those regions, but those are like the only areas. I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure those are the only areas in China where you can gamble. And I think you can only get in like once a year, and you have to pay crazy money to get that visa.
Oh, well, here it says Macau was run by the Portuguese until 1999, so it is a recent addition to the People's Republic.
And they speak Portuguese there still. You'll see signs, and the signs will have English, and then I think it's Mandarin, and then they'll have Portuguese as well. It's just the strangest thing. And sometimes they won't have English signs, but if you kind of know your Spanish sort of well, you're kind of like, oh, I know what it's not a baño, they call it something else, but...
I'm just quickly reading the Wikipedia article on this right here. Wow, my goodness, there's a lot here in Macau.
Lots of history.
Yeah, okay, 20th of December, 1999 is when China had sovereignty over it, and it looks like they're still doing its own little government as part of a subsidiary of the main Chinese government. It looks like it's using the law of Portugal still. They have their own army, but yeah, so it looks like you have admitted. Yeah, there's immigration between the two. So yeah,
and it is an island, isn't it, or isn't it?
No, it's a spit of land right on the head of the Canton Bay, I think, right here. Well, maybe it is an island. But it's almost a peninsula hooked up here on Canton Bay.
Yeah, I think it is a peninsula, and I think Hong Kong an island? No, it's a peninsula as well.
It's like a city sitting out on the same bay.
Yeah, talk about some dirty, nasty water around those areas.
I believe that.
Yeah, it's cool though. You fly into like the Hong Kong airport, and then you take a ferry, and it's one of those hydrofoil ferries that like lifts up.
Did they fix the airport, or do you still land coming in at that mountain?
I don't remember.
Okay, I just remember reading something about that.
I
like 20 years
landed in
ago
there at night. But they had to like make like a really steep bank.
You have to make a really steep bank because they've got a big checkerboard on the mountain, so that you don't crash into it.
It's like a target.
And you come in and you like slide right in and you're landing in. No, that's Hong Kong. Yeah, that's Hong Kong. You take the right and you come in and you're landing like almost into the city.
Yeah, that's something.
It's well, airports are air travel.
Gotta love it. And my stepdad called me today and invited me to come out to fly me and my girlfriend and our young baby out to Whidbey Island, Washington State. Yeah. And then I'm like thinking like, oh God, am I going to get on a plane with like, you know, the young one will be like 9 months by the time we'd be flying out there. Bring a box of earplugs for other passengers and hand them out or something.
I did not say this. Benadryl.
Benadryl. Just drug your baby. That's an option.
They've been doing it for years. My niece, she flew 3 times before she was 2 years old and never cried on the plane.
Wow. Some kids can do it, you know.
I think it's a matter of, basically just being there, the whole swaddling, keeping the child asleep, traveling when the child would be asleep, because they flew, I think the first time she flew was like 9 o'clock at night, so she was already...
That's a smart way of doing it.
She was already asleep. The second time was in the morning.
If you got your kid on the schedule and you know he or she would normally be asleep, that's kind of a good way to do it. Huh.
But, I mean, my sister travels all the time, so she's really savvy about these things.
Yeah. Well, and there's some kids that just... I'm really fortunate. My little son, he really doesn't cry very much. My dad was telling me that me and my brothers, like, you know, like the first 4 months, like, they were, you know, that we were really colicky and cried a lot.
Well, I mean, let's face it, you've been torn out of this warm place where all of your needs have been met. You haven't had to use your eyes. You've been feeling everything. Everything's kind of nice and cozy and warm, and then suddenly you're dragged out into this place where it's cold. You have to cry to get anything that you want. You get hungry for the first time in your life. I mean, it's a traumatic. Being born is pretty traumatic.
Yeah.
I mean, you are being separated from your life source, and you spend the rest of your male life trying to get back there. Anyway, that's beside the point.
That's what the rest of the life is focused on.
It comes down to a "They Might Be Giants" song lyric. What's the sense in ever worrying about the tomb when you're much too busy returning to the womb?
Right.
But so
yeah, I wonder. I'm sure we all know some of those guys that they are boob guys, right? They are whenever they're just always talking about boobs and.
Yeah.
And I personally find those types of people like really, really fucking obnoxious because I'm a cerebral person. I like to think about things of substance, and I'm not saying that I don't like boobs because I do, but it's not something that is an obsession of mine. My obsessions of acquiring information vary from thing to thing. I wonder, does that get developed really early on? Did their mom put them on the bottle too early or something,
or too late.
Or too late, yeah. Or they would punish them with the bottle.
Well,
reward them with the tea.
Yeah, I mean, well, as Freud says, there are what is it, five stages of sexual development, and some people never leave certain stages.
Right.
I believe that is the... What is the boob stage? The boob stage is that's after the penis stage, I think.
Wait, is that the oral stage? Would that be one and the same?
Or is it? No, I can't remember. You know, it's been so long since
Dude,
I've read about it, but
I've thought to like look it up again, like a number of times. I'm like, oh yeah, I should look. But then I'm like, this is some guy's theory from like 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Like the amount of information. I mean, not to say that Freud wasn't, ahead of his time and a super genius, but there's no way that he's like right about this shit.
Well, there's no way that he's completely right about
Yeah.
it. Because then you go into Jung, and Jung, thinks that emotion is what it's not development. It's our emotions that taint everything, that get us stuck into places. So there's an old joke. Okay, what is a Freudian slip? I mean, we all know Freudian slip is when you say something sexual when you didn't mean to, or maybe you did. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's a slip. We don't know. Well, the old joke goes that a Freudian slip is something you wear under Jungian dress.
See, now you're bending my mind here.
It kind of has something to do with the fact that they're both intertwined, even though they had opposite reactions to many things.
Under Jungian dress. Carl Jung, and that's spelled weird. It's with a J.
J-U-N-G.
Yeah. Huh. One of these days I'm going to read a book by him. Or I'll just read a book.
Oh, well.
Because it's been a while.
Well, it's fascinating to read because, these people are trying to break down something scientifically that can't be... They're trying to rationalize an irrational thing. That's where science kind of hits its end. Is it has to be rational. It has to... it doesn't have to be logical. We've proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt. In fact, logic can lead us to places that...
Yeah, mislead us.
Exactly.
Big time. That can happen.
But it's a combination of... There's three unruly children in the mind. There's the rational, there's the emotional, and then there's the impulsive. That's the impulsive, the rational, and the emotional. And these three unruly children all have little bits and parts of our life, and they take place when they need to, and our brain learns which one to use in each circumstance, or a combination of two, or maybe even all three.
Yeah.
But if one gets into control, then things go off the rails. And that's why you can't put your faith completely in science. You can't put your faith completely in faith or religion, and you can't put your faith completely in logic.
Yeah,
because
psychology.
There's no answer if you follow one of these paths. And unfortunately, science is a very rational thing, but it has to be.
Wants to be.
It does. It does because it wants an answer to everything. Sometimes there are no answers.
I love this topic because there really are no correct answers. Whenever, like, what temperature does water boil at?
Where?
100 degrees Celsius, right? By textbook definition, if you're filling it out on a Scantron, you're going to select A for 100 degrees Celsius and you're done, right?
At
212 degrees Fahrenheit.
At 1 atmosphere at sea level,
it's very circumstantial.
It will boil at 100 degrees, yes.
Yeah.
However, where we are now, it'll boil at 98 degrees.
That could, and that muddies the water, right? That at different altitudes, that's gonna change, and the purity of the water is gonna impact that. Is it totally pure water? And they're really, we can make pretty damn pure water these days. But just like gold, you can't make pure gold. A really pure gold is like a Canadian maple leaf. It's 4 nines pure, 99.99%. An American buffalo, I think they're 4 nines. They might be 3 nines though. But you can only get things so pure, anyways. So, a lot of this scientific knowledge, this data that we do use, and but it breaks down. It doesn't really apply. And if you've ever done scientific experiments and you're supposed to get X amount of material out from putting these ingredients in. And by the time you get that ingredient out, you're supposed to have 5 grams on the scale, but you'll never have that. You'll have 4.7 or 4.
Well, and this leads into sort of the same thing. The things that we learn by doing before we know why they work. So forging, right?
Yeah.
Forging is not
Metal.
I mean, it is. It's metal, but you are compacting different grades of metal on top of each other, getting them all to combine in certain ways so that they make a stronger axe or hammer or what have you. But we didn't know that by heating it here and pounding it here that it was actually altering the makeup of the way that the chemicals, the metal atoms were interacting with each other or bonding. We just knew that if you did this and put this in here and squelched this here, you had this nice strong piece of steel or iron.
Right, you made the metal stronger, right? But little did those people back then know that they were honing in on a really specific, carbon content for a specific, quality of metal that they're starting with. And
like the Vikings, I think we talked about this before. The Vikings used to put bones, animal bones and person bones, when they were forging their spears and their swords, and it actually made stronger metal. They thought they were infusing it with the spirit of the animal or the ancestor, but in actuality they were carbonizing the steel.
Could you imagine? Imagine if you went back in time in a spaceship to the Vikings and you tried to explain it to them. Like, no, you're not actually putting the spirit of your god into this.
Why not?
Yeah, and then
why aren't they?
You know what they would do? They would just slice your head right off with that sharp steel.
But think about it. Why aren't they? I mean, just because they're using different names
they really
for the things,
right? I mean
they are
carbon
taking,
in there.
They are taking a life force that does not exist anymore and reusing it in a much newer and better way to continue what they were doing. So they are taking the spirits of those people and they are putting them. I mean, they are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a different name.
Okay, so have you heard about that? You can now have a diamond made from ashes from a dead relative.
Okay,
heard about that?
Now I find that to be sick. Okay, that disgusts
Well,
me.
you know what's even more sick about it is if you actually look into it, they don't actually do that. It's like a total lie. And there's a lot of websites out there that'll say they'll take your pet's ashes and do it, but they don't. All they do is they just sell you basically like a colored synthetic diamond that's grown in a lab. But like whatever they're like, there's a little show where they say, "Oh, send us an envelope with ashes in it," or and it's definitely a big hoax thing. So if you're thinking about doing that, don't do it.
Well, it's just sick. I mean,
yeah.
It's okay. That is like making a completely useless object out of somebody that's a diamond. A diamond.
A diamond is for forever.
Well,
it shines really good too.
You may be more correct than you know. I mean, when gravity gets a hold of things, it tends to compress them down, and there's a lot of carbon out there.
Yeah, and a diamond is just carbon.
In fact, there are some stars that are now nothing but solid masses of diamond.
They think, right? I don't think they.
Well, in an infinite universe with infinite possibilities,
well, there definitely
anything can happen.
There's definitely solid planets of diamond out there, for sure.
But just thinking about it is I mean, okay. So,
smoke? Speaking of impulses,
I would love to, but we had lots of fun last night.
Uh-oh. I might have to go run out and grab some of my weed
all
in
right,
my garage.
hit a pause on that.
All right. We'll be back.